At American University, we don't just hope for change, we create it. We don't just dream of a better world, we make it a reality. With a graduate degree from AU, you'll access expert faculty and connections throughout DC to develop skills and experience to turn your passion into purpose. And that purpose can make all the difference in your career. Discover the difference a degree makes at american.edu/grad school.
No radio? No problem. Stream us live on saga960am.ca. You are listening to New Theory Radio.
Hello and welcome to New Theory Radio. My name is Nav Nanwa. I am your host. And this is the show where we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. Happy New Year to you and yours. Very excited to be welcoming in 2020. And this is the first episode of the new year for New Theory Radio. And we have a jam-packed one. I'm going to be joined by two amazing guests to kick off a new year. I have joining me local Toronto dancehall / hip-hop artist Lexxicon will be in studio with us as we're going to be talking about a number of different topics, as well as a good friend of mine. She is a well-known DJ and dancer and someone that has actually worked at New Theory Radio in the past on a number of different things, and that is my homegirl Diana Reyes, aka FlyLadiDi. And we have a lot to talk about this week. Number one, as we head into a new year, a lot of my artist friends, a lot of my not-for-profit friends, a lot of people that work in the community, it's a busy time, but it's also a very revealing time, as this is usually when a lot of them hear back from grant applications that they wrote probably at the end of last year to get funding for this year so that they can make some of their projects come to life. And I want to get both Lexxicon and Di to chime in on that. Di has had a lot of experience in grant writing, and I'm sure Lexxicon from an artist standpoint has interacted with grants for various things that he's worked on as well. And I want to get their theories on grants and what they actually mean to the community and what they actually mean to artists, and whether or not the funding from these grants gets distributed equally, whether there's anything that's wrong with the grant system, whether there's anything that's right about it. I would love to get both of their perspectives on it, because I feel like that's something that's close to home, and I can definitely chime in on my end regarding some of my experience as well. Also, the Coachella musical festival lineup was announced this week. Coachella is probably the biggest music festival that takes place every single year. It's usually the one that kicks off festival season, and the lineup itself is pretty diverse. It's pretty eclectic. I actually personally really love it, and I want to get both Lexxicon and FlyLadiDi to chime in on it as well, because it seems that a lot of the feedback I've been seeing online regarding Coachella are people having to find ways to finance a ticket to the event, or there's some serious FOMO taking place when it comes to music festivals like Coachella and not wanting to miss it. And is music festival culture getting out of hand? I don't know. I would love to get both Lexxicon and FlyLadiDi to chime in on that. And then we're going to close things off on the show to talk about New Year's resolutions. Yes, I mentioned before that this is the first episode of New Theory Radio for 2020. And right about this time, people probably have either New Year's resolutions that they're going to be executing or ones that they're currently pursuing. And it's a known fact that a lot of New Year's resolutions fall by the wayside 3 weeks into the new year. So I want to get Lexxicon and FlyLadiDi to let me know about their New Year's resolutions, as well as what their thoughts on New Year's resolutions are when it comes to their everyday life. Personally, for me, I've tried the whole New Year's resolution thing. I kind of have a New Year's resolution this year, but not really. I think I more so have goals that I want to attain this year that aren't necessarily bound by a certain period of time. But again, everyone's different, and I think it'll be a worthwhile conversation to dig a bit deep as to what New Year's resolutions mean for various people. All this and more on this week's episode of New Theory Radio. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then when I come back, I'm going to be joined by Lexxicon and FlyLadiDi here on News Talk Saga 960 AM. And we are back here on New Theory Radio on News Talk Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa. I am your host, and this is a show where we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. And it's about that time that we start theorizing here on the show. And I'm very excited to be welcoming two amazing guests that are going to be joining me for the next 2 hours to talk all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. I'm going to start with a person first sitting in front of me. She is one of the homies from way back, someone that's worked with New Theory Radio in the past, someone that's worked with me a lot in the past, has just come back from an excursion in New York. Hanging out with b-boys and doing the big DJ thing. You were actually dancing out there quite a lot too.
I was training. I kind of wanted to use the time to retrain and, get in touch with the OGs and get my ass my butt beat. I'm so sorry. To work out really intensely in ways that I haven't in recent past. So.
Yeah, and that's FlyLadiDi, the one you just heard drop the A-bomb here on the...
Wagwan. I'm so sorry. Sunday.
After I just told him, I was like, don't swear. He just goes all in. But it's okay.
I had just come from New York, so
I know.
There's that.
It's very, very, very New York, very hot 97 of you to do that. But yes, FlyLadiDi is the homie from back, so happy to finally have you in the studio. We actually were trying to do a show with you a few months ago, then you fell sick.
Yes, I was sick, and also there was family stuff, so I wasn't able to come out those times, but I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Nav. It's great to be on the west side.
Anytime. No, it's good to have you in. And joining you is another amazing individual. He is a well-known dancehall / hip-hop artist here in the GTA. He actually has a new album coming out in a few weeks. And then he also runs a collective called Afrowave. It's Lexxicon here in the building. Lexxicon, thanks so much for joining us, man. New Theory Radio.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it me or her? Or me, him? Oh, all of us. Okay, we need to all stop swinging. But Lexxicon, man, thanks so much for joining us. I know when I saw you outside, you were a bit confused. You're like, are you at the right place? And I got worried for a second. I thought you were just going to leave.
Oh, no, I was just trying to look at the unit numbers. It was not going in correct order.
Oh, okay. It's okay. Well, that's Rexdale for you, right? So it's all good. But no, super excited to have both you guys in studio. And the fact that it's 2020 and it's the start of a new year, this is usually an interesting time for a lot of artists and a lot of creatives. Typically right now is when you're submitting sort of grant applications or you're hearing back from grant applications that you wrote last year. And I don't know about you guys, but I got a lot of people in my network that are freaking out right now, not because they haven't received grants, but they haven't heard back. A lot of sort of that funding is critical for a lot of things that they want to pursue this year. And Di, I know you and I have had this conversation a bunch of times, and Lexxicon, I know as an artist, you probably, deal with this every now and then when it comes to wanting to pursue some of your dreams. But I want to get your, both your theories on just what grant writing means to you, especially when, I read an article, and I think I flipped it to both of you guys, from the Globe and Mail that talked about how some people have concerns that the funding isn't distributed properly, and that's not just within Ontario, but that's all across Canada. So, Di, because you not only have wrote grants for days, but I think you've actually have done grant writing for other organizations in the past as well, right?
That's correct. I've written grants for Manifesto, and I had a collective before with another playwright. And we were successful in getting a couple of grants funded.
Ooh, interesting. I like that. So how would you kind of describe the process of a grant, and how would you sort of what's your opinion on how things have been going so far when it comes to the local arts community?
So when I ran a grant, and I've been really successful. I've gotten grants from Toronto, Ontario, and Canada Council, in addition to other micro grants and that kind of things, and the way I like to start, and the advice that I like to give to people is to start with an idea as opposed to start with a grant. Because a lot of people think that to legitimize themselves as an artist, they need to get the grant money first. They need to get the recognition from the grant bodies in order to validate their art. But I personally think that you need an idea first, and you need to be passionate about that idea, and you need to be clear on what you want out of that idea. And from there, you can determine how much you want to pay yourself, how much you want to pay your peoples, and essentially what you want the money for, right? Because that's really what a grant is. A grant is basically like a business plan for an artist, and there's no other way around it. So you're basically submitting a proposal for an idea, And if your idea isn't clear, if your team isn't strong, if your work plan isn't strong, then you're not going to have a good chance. And the other really important part about it is you need to have really strong support material, because the support material is your make or break, right? They're looking at sometimes 200 grants, sometimes more, and the field is competitive, whether you're competing with Toronto, Ontario, Canada, etc. So what essentially you have to think of is you got to put your best foot forward. You got to put, your ego aside and just really put down the work and make sure that it's, clear, crisp, clean, and definitely your best. So when it comes to my opinion about grants, I could write a book. I definitely find that they are helpful.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. Whenever I travel and people ask me what are you doing here? How did you get the money to come? I say, my government gave me the money. And it's hilarious because it's like,
it's a straight handout. It's a handout. Yeah.
It's like, how did you get that money? I wrote down my idea and I wrote down who I wanted to pay and I wrote a budget and they gave me the money. And that's what a grant is. And as Canadians, all you Canadian artists listening and who've never gotten a grant or have never thought about grants, trust me, we have a golden ticket as Canadians. We are so lucky to be Canadian and to have access to these funds. And so we need to take advantage and we need to represent ourselves, because whether or not we're getting these grant funds, once we are in the applicant pile, we're making others aware of our art, and we're kind of putting ourselves, we're stepping up to the plate is what I'm trying to say. And so I feel like more people that are not privy to it or feel like that's not for them, they should at least try and get into it just to get a flow going and to represent as an artist.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point that you bring up, because I've met a lot of artists that get discouraged even before they even write a grant. They're straight up like, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time. It takes a grant could take 20 pages to write. I could be spending that time either grinding with my product or going out there networking, or better yet, working on new stuff, hoping that one day this next track or this video or this dance that I put out there is what's going to blow me up. And then that's when money's going to start rolling in. Do you see a lot of that as well?
Absolutely, because grant writing is such a time-consuming process, right? You're not only figuring out your projects, you're trying to write from your heart, you're trying to articulate your vision, you're trying to represent who you are on the page. And none of that is easy. All of that is time-consuming. And especially when you want to come across clear and you want to come across articulately. So it's really pick your battles, right? If this is something that you feel will legitimize your work, will benefit you and your community, then definitely invest the time. Because my whole thing is you can't get something for nothing. If you don't invest the time, if you don't really sit down and pick apart your own work and your own vision, how are you going to execute it with or without a grant? My whole thing is you need to really thoroughly go through the details of your ideas, and whether or not you apply for a grant with that idea, or decide to approach a grant body with any of these ideas, it's good to have laid out all of the things that you want for yourself in your work. Awesome.
Lexxicon, what's your experience with grants, man?
I would say on the other side of things, it's kind of like a code. It's like the secret code of grants that you may or may not understand.
Yeah.
And I usually don't understand it.
Really? Yeah. Have you actually ever pursued one for you or Afrowave?
Oh, absolutely. For myself, I've definitely tried a couple and failed. I'm trying some for the collective right now. One, I'm halfway successful, as in there was a second part where you have to get you apply, and then it's if you get to the second round, then you can apply for the full part. So I'm in this full part of that one now, and that one's due at the end of this month. So I'm trying that for the collective. It's a lot. It's definitely a lot, especially some of these grants I've never heard of until recently, and trying to understand what they want and trying to understand how to make it clear, because I might think it's clear, but it may not be clear. And I wish there was a magic grant writing organization for artists where we could come by and, you know, be like, oh, hey, you know, we'll take you on for this project, have you for this grant, have you for this one, because trying to understand it as an independent all on your own and trying to do your music and trying to get your videos done and trying to do your photo shoots and keep up with your social media and also planning out your year is a lot.
Yeah, I bet. And that's the biggest discouragement that I see is people are like the time. Like there's no time to actually go and write your ideas down on paper and be able to formalize it, because, you know, I know, like, so my background's business. So when a lot of artists see that I have a business background, they typically want me to read over grant applications, or they were like, you know, we're applying for this, or can you read my press release and make sure it makes sense? And they're doing a lot of it on their own. And sometimes they don't have the necessary skills to bring that sort of to life because they're too focused on their art, which isn't a bad thing. Like, I think you should never try to be something that you're not, because ultimately if you can find someone that can do it for you, it just makes your situation a lot better. But it's funny that you bring that up, because, like, and do you find that with the way sort of the grant process is, that there should be another way that people should be able to apply for grants?
Oh, absolutely. Because, I mean, just like you said, it's discouraging just opening it and seeing all these questions. And it's like, if you've never gone to university, if you're not used to, like, doing essays, if you're not used to, like, any of that stuff, like, this is not common to you. It's not regular. You don't have those same skills that someone else that has gone to post-secondary would have just from going. And, like, that's already, like, another subtraction from you, and you haven't even, like, written anything yet.
Yeah.
So it's already overwhelming for you, and you need the time. And then, like, you're not really used to structuring your thoughts in those specific ways that they expect you to structure it in. I feel if there was another alternative where maybe it's you, either they have someone you work with and you kind of, like, vocalize, or there has to be something. There has to be some alternative, I feel, to include more of the other people that are not as familiar with that type of writing style and that type of structure. Because, I mean, I think it's just disadvantaging them.
Do you find that some grants that you guys apply for, you're noticing the same people getting them, or the same organizations, or you're noticing just the same pool of applicants? And, you know, that's another sort of part that's discouraging people, is that, you know, I'll never be this organization because they've been writing grants and getting the funding for the last 20 years. You know, it's hard for me to break through.
Absolutely. You know, speaking as someone who is a juror, and I encourage anyone who wants to apply for a grant to be a juror first, so that they can see from the other side what it's like for you know, to be on that side, to analyze all of the material that you get. But, you know, having been a juror and seeing, well, this was like 2013, but just seeing, you know, the ratio, right? So it was a dance project grant, and it was primarily, like, a huge chunk of it was Caucasian contemporary dancers. And these are really established dancers who've, you know, like you said, been in the grant writing world for years and years and years. Who have years on, you know, say the street dancer who's trying to get a project off the air. And so because street dance hadn't been recognized or, you know, kind of in the mix as much as the contemporary dancers have, their art isn't seen the same way. They're not understood the same way, and they're not, like, recognized or validated in the same way. So I feel like a lot of the decisions are based on familiarity. So, like, say you have someone vouching on the jury for, you know, the street dance application, and that person vouching is from the street dance world. That's like one person vouching, right? So you have a very uneven amount of people who are established and going for this money, who are really good at it, and a very small amount who are very new and very, you know, kind of like green on the process. And I totally agree that there needs to be some sort of, like, assistance, because we're just not privy always to that information and that kind of, like, flow of working.
Yeah, that's Lexxicon.
Oh, yeah. I've also been a juror for Factor and for the Junos. And just seeing the competition, it's almost like, why do I even bother? Like, there's people with label support. There's people from, like, Universal, with people from OVO, with people from like supporting with them letters, helping them with the team, man. Like all these people with backers and teams and all this stuff. And I'm like, how can these other upcoming independent artists actually compete?
Yeah.
They, even if they had someone to help them, like it just would not compare to these persons with the entire team behind them to do this whole application. You can see the difference, and you also see it with the people they have backing them. So I mean, unless they find some way to divide it between who's supported by majors and who's are actually independent, I feel like it's just completely unfair.
Actually, to that point, do you find that there should be sort of different categories, which I'm sure exist, but like I guess as a way to make it more fair? Because I've seen that too, where I remember like Factor is a good one that you bring up, because Video Fact used to be a big grant that a lot of people used to get back in the day for music videos. And I remember like as a kid watching Much Music, seeing that Video Fact logo pop up on one of the little like lockups of when you watch a music video, and noticing some of the bigger names actually utilizing Video Fact. And now in hindsight, I'm like, was that even fair? Because these were people that had, you know, big time record labels backing them up. Like, I don't know, just a thought.
I mean, I don't think it's fair, but and if they're gonna have it, then have a separate pool that's available to those people who already, you know, they can compete for a separate pool than everybody else.
Yeah.
Because then it's really obviously they're gonna get it. Like it's just like it's extra discouraging. One, you have the application. Two, you're not familiar with that world of writing, and then three, you have all these people with people behind them competing for the same money you're competing for.
Yeah.
And then they try to make it seem, when you try to talk to someone, sometimes they're not as helpful. It's like, oh, you know, just kind of say what you mean, or it's really just about the song, or it's da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, because I'll call them and I'm like, oh, hey, and they'll just give me these regular answers that are completely unhelpful.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really...
Well, I should die, you say.
I just feel like, well, maybe not different categories, because there is a lot of satisfaction if you are from the street dance world, or if you are from like a underserved community, to get the grants amongst the other, you know, like more established collectives. I'd say more representation needs to happen on the other side. So like the panel needs to be more diverse and more inclusive. And the people in charge of the decision makers have to be just like a rainbow, as opposed to just very one-sided. And I feel like this has been like a very traditional Canadian way of working in the arts. It's very like old school, very white, very privileged, right? And they don't see art the way we do. They're not on the ground as we are. And so we need just a rainbow, an array of like voices on the other side of the panel.
And that's another thing I've noticed too when I was doing research on a couple of grants or some of the projects I'm working on, is some of their requirements or some of the things that they're looking for is like uber specific. It's, you know, we need, and this is not to knock anybody, but they're like, we need, you know, we're giving funding to an organization that's promoting LGBTQ, I can't even speak. This is new year, new me. Indigenous people that are living in Midwestern Canada that are, you know, from a single home family. Like, they get so specific regarding some of the requirements that for someone who's really good at their art, that's just looking for any type of investment, like, I'm not knocking anybody that's getting that specific, because, like, again, you have to provide underprivileged populations opportunities. But for someone like the both of you, it can be tough, because you're like, where do I fit in? Like, how do I have to mold my sort of idea? And that's another thing that I see too, you know, that bothers me, is when you're like a festival or like a show that's trying to apply for funding, how they want you to have this population represented. And it's like, okay, cool, I can do that, but how much of that is force fitting too?
I totally agree with you.
Canada 150 is when I saw a lot of force fitting, and not to knock any of those festivals. I was a part of a couple of them as an MC, but they forcibly would put, you know, a smudging ceremony in there just so they can meet a grant quota. And I'm like, this is horrible. Like, you know, the Indigenous people deserve a lot more than you trying to put in a smudging ceremony because you're trying to hit a grant application, right?
Yep. I totally feel that it's not always about fitting the mold, fitting the certain requirements. If you're an artist, and this like really comes down to like when you're applying, you have to know this about yourself. You have to know what kind of artist you are, and you have to stick by that. And if none of these artistic criteria fit your vision of yourself as an artist, then move on. Like you don't need this. You don't need these things. You don't need to rely on them is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You can still go about it your own way and invest in other ways, time, your own money. It doesn't matter. Like there's not like one way about going with your art.
Yeah.
I'd say on the flip side of that, I mean, I haven't received any grants, so everything I've done has been like self-funded myself, everything. But so I'm like, I'm already okay with doing that. I'm like, I would like to get some of this grant money, please. I mean, some of these artists, I mean, I'm more better at doing and like being at the shows, curating the shows, doing the performances, finding the places, and then other people who you may not see anywhere at any of these things are getting these grants to go do all these things because they're better at just saying how they're going to do things.
Trust me.
And I'm just like, I don't know how to win. I don't know.
I feel like that's winning, though, because you are in the driving seat. You are the driver's seat. You're in complete control of your brand, your work, etc., your output, and all of that. And that's the thing. Like I said earlier, you know, if you feel like you need that legitimization or that validation from these grant bodies, then totally go that way, right? Like it's just dollars at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Dollars come and go in your life and in your art.
But I need those dollars.
No, I know. and coming from a successful grant applicant, it helps. It definitely helps, and it's really, really
Love
there.
the honesty, Lexxicon.
Yeah, it's there for your community to pay your community properly, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going about it your own way too, that's also winning, in my opinion.
So just to close this topic off, then what are some tips, and maybe Di, you can chime in on this because you know we want to get Lexxicon some money.
Please, if anyone out there wants to help, find me on Instagram. DM
Definitely want to support Reggae Trap, man, for sure. What's the best way to look for funding? Like, what's the best way to look for grants that maybe you have a better opportunity at succeeding at versus some of the bigger ones that like everybody and their mother applies for?
It doesn't matter. If a grant is a grant, I feel like, you know, you just have to represent yourself and your work, and you have to represent at the highest level because everyone is coming at these funds at the highest level, right? Your team has to be at the highest level. Everyone on your team has to be professional and established and have an excellent track record. You yourself have to have that. Like, obviously, if you do, you have to write it down. You have to make it very clear to them that you are deserving of this money because that's essentially what it is. It's like money coming your way for a thing, for a project, for an idea, right? And if the powers that be don't see that you are capable of using funds in a responsible and formative way that's going to impact the community further down the line, then they're not going to really see it as something that's worth their time or their money. And then also rule number 1, always look into who's the grant officer. That is your first order of business, is who is the grant officer. Give them a phone call. Don't email, don't text, don't DM. Call them and say, hello, my name is XYZ. I'm applying for the September 15th deadline of this grant. I just wanted to introduce myself. That's it.
Amazing.
And just open the line of communication. That's so important.
There was actually an article, and I flipped it to both of you while prepping for the interview, that I'm probably going to include in the podcast description. It's from CBC's arts section, the 6 Essentials of Writing an Artist Grant. I think everyone should read it. You know, I'll just quickly go through them. Research is number 1, which I think, Di, you touched on. The program officers, your new BFF. I think that's totally true. There's a grant that I've written that we're going to be actually meeting with the program officer in a few weeks, and I think that's perfect. I think it's a good way to build rapport. Give yourself plenty of time to work on the application. Create a realistic budget. Don't ask for too little or too much. I think we can do a whole show on budgeting. Try to secure in-kind donations or other sources of funding, and then proofread and edit the application before submitting it. One last thing, Lexxicon, are you going to be pursuing any additional funding this year?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I have 2 in the process. One, I've already met with one of the program officers.
Amazing.
I have a follow-up meeting coming up like next week when they all open up again.
All right.
Because I'm like...
yeah, everyone's on holidays. Everyone's back tomorrow.
Yeah, we're all on holidays. So I'm like, as soon as I get back, I'm trying to meet with most of them to be like, hey, like, I'm really trying to get this done. Help me.
Amazing.
So we'll see how that goes. I'll let you know.
Hey, man, best of luck to you. You know, definitely, I think the funding is definitely needed when it comes to bringing your dreams to life. And I think if the funding's out there, you should just apply for it. You never know what's going to happen. And that's the biggest piece of advice I'd like to give anyone listening, is that if you are working on any type of artistic project and you need that little bit of a financial boost to make it happen, don't sleep on the grants, because there's a lot of money out there that can help fuel your dreams. I want to move on. I did mention this this next topic. This doesn't involve grant funding, but it involves a lot of money. Coachella just released their lineup of artists for this year. Pretty amazing in my view. Like, I think if I didn't have a kid and didn't have responsibilities, I'd try to go. But Coachella is sort of now like the biggest festival of the year. Like, I think everybody looks at Coachella as being, maybe our Woodstock in a way, like every single year, where people look forward to it, and it has a who's who. And what I like about Coachella, number one, is you get a sense of which artists are actually going to be releasing new music this year based on who's on the lineup. And you also get a sense of what the other sort of tours / festivals are going to look like. But the one thing I found funny about Coachella when the news was released on who was playing, and just to recap, the headliners are Rage Against the Machine, which is so sick. That's a band that I've always wanted to see, so hopefully they do shows outside of Coachella. Travis Scott, who's having his moment right now, and then Frank Ocean, who I'm also a big fan of. That looks like he's coming out of reclusivement to do some stuff, which is great. I saw him a few years ago, Way Home, and he killed it. So I'm glad that he's getting back into it. But some of the things I wanted to talk about was when I was on Twitter, it seems like everybody and their mom was trying to find ways, number one, to get tickets, and number two, finding the funding to get tickets, because these tickets aren't cheap. I think they're around like $500 USD. And Di just had a heart attack. And again, like for someone I know that's been to Coachella, like I think you fly into California and then you have to get into a car for like 3 hours because it's in the middle of nowhere. It's in Indio, wow. And it just seems like it's quite the time. So wanted to kind of get both your thoughts and theories on music festivals like Coachella and whether or not things are getting out of hand, and whether the whole concept of a music festival needs to be revisited, because there's been also a ton of festivals that used to happen here locally that are no longer in existence because of the financing and the sponsorship and just the uptake that exists when it comes to putting on a show of this magnitude. So Lexxicon, let's throw it over to you, man. Are you going to be making the trip out to Coachella in April, and do you one day hope to perform at Coachella?
If I get this grant, you might see me at Coachella. I would definitely love to perform there. That's like I'd say the Coachella is like the festival. It's like the Grammys. Grammys is like the award academy, and then the Coachella is like the festival.
It is,
of
man.
Festivals. I'd definitely love to perform there. Will I be selling all my things? No, I will not. I will definitely wait until I get that day where I'm enough recognition to perform.
Yeah.
But I mean, it all looks really, really, really good. I feel like music festivals are replacing award shows. Yeah. In my opinion, so it's only going to get bigger. Because people seem to, like, the live sector seems to be growing, like, rapidly, and people are just, like, more than ever now just want to go see their artist in person or a live show or live anything. So I really see it continuing to grow and getting even bigger, and then the award shows kind of, like, becoming less and less relevant. So I don't think Coachella's going anywhere.
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up, because I'm finding that music festivals are now a necessity of Instagram. Like, I went to Osheaga last year, and people kept messaging me like, yo, can you send me a snap of this person's performance? Or, oh, Osheaga looks awesome. Like, keep posting more videos. And I'm like trying to enjoy myself. Like, okay, cool, calm down. But I find that it's very Instagram worthy now. Like, people just want to be at these things to, number one, to your point, see their favorite artist. But number two, try to get some good photos for the gram sometimes. I don't know. Di, what do you think?
I definitely agree with you. I feel like the culture in general nowadays is just to prove that you were there. It's not even like you...
FOMO, man.
Yes, it's a culture of FOMO, and we have Instagram to thank for that. And, it's funny because you go to these things, right? I mean... You like this past summer, I performed at Veld Festival, which is like a huge festival in August.
Sick.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And it's funny. Like, I always think like the way people show their excitement right now is like this, where they just like have their phone in the air. They're no longer like woo. They're just like with their phone, and then everyone is just capturing footage of everyone with their phone, and that's all you're getting is people with their phones in the air, and not the artist anymore. And you're already looking at it through your phone. You're there in person, but you're already looking at it through a screen, and I think it's so sad. But people want to prove to everyone on their gram that they're there and that they're experiencing it.
It's all clout. Like, literally, it's all clout. Like, oh, I was there when this happened. Like, for example, OVO Fest, I think, is the biggest clout festival every year. I managed to go a couple times, not for clout, but just because I managed to get tickets. But I remember once I made a video of Drake performing. Is it KMT, Amit? KMT Live, and I just love his verse. And then I remember like I did a good 1 minute of it, and it was super hype because the crowd looked like it was bouncing up and down. I posted it on Instagram. Then Universal emails me. It smells like they got my email somehow. They email me demanding that I take it down because it was a minute. They said it was like invading some type of copyright on the track. But that thing got retweeted like no tomorrow when I posted it because people were like, oh, I wish I was there. Oh man, like Drake did this, Drake did that. Like again, like these are becoming more social events versus like actual experiences. Like that's the one thing that I find.
Well, because I mean, if you don't capture it, you weren't really there.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to find a balance between taking some footage to say you were there, and then a balance between actually enjoying the event. And actually, being with the people that you went with and, talking to each other during the event versus, filming it.
That kind of validation sucks though, man.
It's a hard balance. It's a hard balance.
Yeah. Well, it's fascinating because the lineup is super awesome. I'm digging it. But, we don't really have any big festivals anymore that really take place in our neck of the woods. Like, I went to Way Home a couple years ago. Veld's probably the closest thing that we have.
Probably,
which is, like, mainly EDM. And then they start introducing hip-hop.
Right. The headliner was Cardi B, which was hip-hop. But unfortunately, she got there, like, 20 minutes late.
Yeah, and did, like, 3 songs.
Yeah, it was really hilarious. Exactly. It was pretty awkward. But it's amazing how they're diversifying their program to include a lot more hip-hop.
I think they have to.
Oh, yeah, they should. And, the DJ that I dance for, DJ Fafa Khan, big ups, she was like the only woman besides Cardi B on the whole thing. Yeah, and I was what the, there needs to be more representation for women.
Well, that's an interesting point because even if you look at the headliners for Coachella are all male. Like last year they had Ariana Grande. The year before that they had Beyonce, which she killed Coachella. I think everyone watched the documentary. The year before that they had Beyonce, but then she had to back up because she got pregnant, so they brought Lady Gaga in. This year there's no females. Like that's interesting. Like if I look at the list, the only person that gets the only females that get sort of second billing on the first day, Megan Thee Stallion, who's kind of having a moment right now. Summer Walker is like far down the list on the second day.
She's still performing.
Yeah. Oh, were you one of those Toronto people that went to the show?
I just thought she was done, but she canceled the rest of the tour dates.
Oh, is that what happened?
She lowered her amount of tour dates that she was going to do. So I thought she was done performing, but I guess not.
And then Lana Del Rey has second billing after FKA Twigs, and then Ari Lennox towards the end. So. Yeah, I guess they put Lana Del Rey right after Frank, but yeah, they didn't put that's interesting though. Like I don't know why a lot of people aren't calling out Coachella for that because they've had a strong run of strong female performers headlining. I don't know why they kind of missed out on it this year, but. I guess Lexxicon, you can make the debate, but no, there's no reggae on this list.
Well, I was looking at that too, or even Afrobeats, or even reggaeton, or like any of them.
Okay.
It's okay.
Well, especially since Afrobeats is having a moment right now.
Yeah.
Like I think Burna Boy is somewhere on this list. It's funny as like the font gets smaller when you try to look for some of these artists that are like mentioned. Do you guys feel like the whole concept of a music festival needs to change in 2020? Like, do you think people need to think about these things differently? Like, do you guys like the way that they run? Like, Di, you mentioned you went to Veld. I went to Veld in 2013. To me, it wasn't really my vibe. Like, it was all ages. And I remember some 18-year-old trying to pay me to buy them a beer, and I said no. That's why I knew I had to get out. Like, I can't be here. But do you guys feel like you brought up a good point, Lexxicon, about these sort of replacing award shows? Do you want to see something happen even further that kind of makes a music festival a lot more different, a lot more fun, a lot more engaging?
I feel like it is going to evolve into that just because they're going to have to diversify. They're going to have to cater to certain populations. So by catering to those populations, they're going to include more certain genres. I just don't think they'll be all on a huge scale. I think it'll be more like either mid-size or smaller festivals that'll engage more of those audiences that are interested. Because they want their dollars, so they're gonna go get it, and I think that's when they're gonna do it. Because I mean, trying to be at the Coachella level is just like unreasonable and not financially possible for most people. So having that mid tier / lower festival kind of like target range is I feel like there's gonna be a lot more growth of as well.
Yeah. What about Di? What do you think?
I completely agree. I'm gonna take you all back to 2008 when I was a painter. Yes, I paint as well. for Afropunk.
What do you not do?
I do everything. No, but I was a live painter for Afropunk in Brooklyn, and this is when it was in a parking lot with the skaters and everyone, all the energy, and like this is when no one had ever heard of Janelle Monáe, and she was like a part of that festival.
Yeah,
and it was such an exciting time because it was all these like new acts who fit the mandate, but it was like a beautiful energy because like there was all these artists in Brooklyn who were giving their energy, like showing their outfits and just being like fly, and there was like an intensity. There was like a concentration of vibe, right?
I like it.
And like I feel like I totally feel like that's lacking, right? It's because like everything is so corporate, everything is a money grab, and you lose that essence, right?
Yeah.
And so I'd have to agree. Like I feel like the small like more boutique ideas of like a festival will probably start popping up because people want that intimacy.
Yeah. No, and I think that needs to come back because, sometimes it is easy to get overwhelmed when you go to one of these things and you see a brand just plastered having their own stage and really having their own presence, and you almost feel like you're being sold a live commercial of some sort. And, obviously like the activations are a big sort of component for a lot of these shows, but I've always been a fan of just out in the park, finding a stage, just someone barbecuing, just someone rocking out. I remember once emceeing a show at the Malton Park right by Gore Way. I forgot the name, but it was like the Malton City Park that's out there. And it was like a simple stage that was set up. A lot of families were hanging out. Someone had almost like a tailgate vibe. And I remember we had a couple of hip hop performers out there, and it just felt so authentic, so real. And I just love that sort of community aspect of it. Like I'm hoping more of that comes to a head, because I think when you have those types of moments, you can really personalize a lot of the experiences, and especially when you see artists that you like in those type of environments, I think it makes it a lot cooler.
Yeah, I'd say Travis Scott definitely tapped into that for the Astrofest.
Yeah,
what he did.
Yeah, no, exactly. Do you want to do an Afrowave Fest? Is that the goal?
Absolutely. Absolutely, come through Grants and we will. We will.
But that's another interesting thing though too is there's festivals like Bonnaroo that have like comedy built into that as well. Do you guys want to see like more outside of music, like more performance art, more comedy? Some of these other mediums get interrelated.
Absolutely, because it's not just about the music, right? Like the experience of it, you're standing there in a field and you're around all these other fans and that you're there for hours, right? And it's like, how are you going to engage? How are you going to like mentally stimulate yourself other than just like standing there for hours, just seeing people bop up and down? I think that would be amazing if there was more programming with like more diverse acts, and then people could be exposed to all these different things other than just like musical acts. Musical acts are amazing, but it's amazing to have a more cultured, a more like broader worldview than just standing there and jumping up and down. I
always feel like a lost opportunity is the space between two acts when they switch over. Like sometimes they'll just leave it empty and tell you, oh, go to the other stage across the park, or like the way Oshega did it is like when one act would finish, the other one would start right away, and they have two stages side by side, which I thought works as well. It depends, but sometimes you get a bad view depending on where you're standing. But I always find like if you have a gap in between sets, like why not throw in a comedian, throw in a dance set, throw in someone that's doing like acrobats or fire blowing or something like that, like something cool that just kind of stands out to add to it. I think would be pretty awesome. If you guys were given a lot of funding and you were told to organize your own festival, who would be your three headliners for this festival? And they have to be alive. They can't be dead.
Oh my God, this is hard. Why are you putting me on the spot right now, Nav?
Actually, I feel Lexxicon has some answers. We'll go ahead.
But you said headliners, so now I'm just like, because I like putting a lot of local artists. So like if we get some headliners.
Yeah, and I got influenced by this question because I remember somebody a couple of years ago was spreading like an image of like, oh, this would be the ultimate Canadian music festival. I think the headliners were like Neil Young, Drake, and Justin Bieber or something like that.
Celine Dion?
Yeah, Celine Dion just making a guest appearance.
Yeah.
But if you actually, better yet, Lexxicon, if you were doing a music festival, what kind of music festival would it be, and who would be the three headliners?
Oh, it would definitely be like a dancehall /
okay. I like that. And,
sure.
and then where would you hold it?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where I'd hold it, but I know I'd want J Balvin, I'd want Shensia and Burna Boy. to all headline.
Wow.
Along with a lot of local opening acts as well, so people can get to know them that way.
Yeah.
Those are my top 3.
That's
right
awesome.
now.
That's awesome.
I love me some Ari Lennox.
Okay.
Lakaylee, I feel like she hasn't had as much burn,
Yeah.
but she's really dope and her music is really hype.
Yeah.
Oh, and the third one, who is? Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Yours very like R&B, eh? Like R&B.
Yeah, I love me some R&B. Like it's like live aspect. It should be like more hype. But like Kaylee has some bangers. She's got some like really hype jams.
Yeah.
Man, why can't I think? But people always put me on the spot, and I'm like, I don't know. And then later I look at my phone. I'm like, yes, I should have said that person.
So, but where would you hold it though? Toronto.
Oh man, that's a great question. Montreal has pure vibes.
Montreal is sick. Montreal actually has a hip hop festival now too, or they did last year. It's called Metro. I don't know if it's still going on, but they were trying to do their own Rolling Loud. Like that was their goal with it. And it wasn't affiliated with O'Shea. I remember getting an invite to it like via an email because I think I was part of some email thread or something. But I think Cardi B and Snoop played it.
Interesting.
But it kind of came and went. So sometimes these one-off festivals happen and then they just disappear because they didn't make money or the marketing just was lacking and all that.
It's so hard being like a programmer for a manifesto and, having been a part of that whole thing. It's such a huge, thankless undertaking. Like there's so much work involved and there's so many people that have to be like, there's so many cooks in the kitchen. There's like not enough money, not enough time, and not enough sleep. It's just like so consuming. And so I get it if, like a festival brand doesn't survive. It's because there's so much involved in that. And it's so hard to like maintain the money and to maintain the energy to do it and the hype, etc.
And that's the discouraging part of it too. Is I look at a place like Toronto, like there should be a festival in Toronto, like a big one, like a Lollapalooza or an O'Shea that takes place because we have the infrastructure. Like I remember back in 2006 and 7, the Virgin Festival used to happen on Toronto Island. I went to that a couple times. First time I saw Lupe Fiasco there, it was amazing. And then the year after, I saw who did I see the year after? I saw Bjork there, which was cool. Then like Way Home came and went. And then I remember when I went to Way Home in its last year, it was pretty dead, but I liked it because I was like, cool, I can like walk around and not get bumped around or pushed or anything like that. And I got a good view of Frank and Solange and Justice, which was cool. But I don't know, I always look at Toronto like, why don't festivals work here? Like I thought we have a good vibe in the summer that it should.
Everyone's so screw-faced. Everyone just be watching like
literally just watching the gram while I'm just like, oh, you're going to that festival? Who are you? Well, because I always think OVO Fest can be bigger. I think if Drake really decided, like, number one, I think he can do like Rogers Center because it's huge, but I think he can do a good outdoor festival considering like the music that he's into. Obviously it'd probably be filled with some of his artists, which would be okay, I guess, but I don't know. Well, it depends who the artists are. I'm not gonna hate, but I don't know. Like you would think someone with that much clout could do something.
I mean, I think he could, but I think he's not really focused on that.
No, he's not.
I think
he's not.
He's trying to just maintain his spot.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame him because everyone keeps wanting him to fall, but like he just has to focus on that. I mean,
we talked about last week, artist of the decade, man. We talked about last week. We think he's the artist of the decade.
Absolutely.
So.
You can't contest that.
Yeah.
He's got a house on Bridle Path, you guys.
He does. He does. And based on his Instagram and the interview he did on Tidal for Rap Radar,
nice.
The house looks awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, I've driven by it before and be like, yo, that's Drake's house. It's massive.
Oh, so wait, were you the person that was outside the door with the voodoo doll?
Oh my God, I didn't even know that
apparently, he mentioned that story in the podcast that he had a girl with a voodoo doll and topless photos.
What?
And apparently they burned all of it because they were just like, they weren't sure how to react.
Damn.
If I had a dream music festival, I do it on Toronto Island.
I agree.
And because I think the island is so underrated.
So nice.
Hopefully, it's still not flooded, is it?
I don't think so.
Probably better now. I'd probably do, just as a nerd and just a fan of nostalgia, I'd probably do Rage Against the Machine one day. I'd probably do Wu-Tang the second day. The third day, maybe like a Kendrick or something. Just keep it super like hipster hip hop. Super hardcore. I don't know. But I don't know. I always think about how fun it would be to program a festival.
It's fun, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I think if you have the resources, it can be fun.
Yeah, when you have unlimited money
and team of the right people, right? Because everyone has to work together to meet the deadline. Like it's a lot behind
so
the
much.
scenes.
How was it organizing Manifesto? Because I feel like Manifesto has kind of scaled back a little bit over the last couple of years.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not even really aware of like what's going on with Manifesto anymore. But I remember being like an assistant dance director for John Reed, who was the main dance director, and we were a part of Year 5, which is a huge year. There was like hundreds of thousands of dollars at hand, and there was about like 11 events that were just like on a huge scale. And
was that the one that Vashti played?
No, I think that was
party?
the year after.
Oh,
no,
okay.
yeah, that was maybe a couple of years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Year 5 was huge. We had like Major Lazer. And,
crazy.
Like, yeah, it was an insane amount of stuff, and it was really, really hella fun. But sorry, I just said hell. Hella. But it was like a huge undertaking. We didn't sleep, we didn't eat for like weeks. And I remember like when we finished, all we ate was poutine.
Oh
everyone on the intern team was like, our diet consisted of poutine.
Smokes poutineery or poutinis on
I think
Queen Ossington?
poutinis, or just like any poutine. We were just like, we should have poutine. We needed to like replenish
It was Burger King.
ourselves.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Drive-through poutine.
But it was a lot. It was a lot of work.
Yeah, I bet. And that's one of my dreams. I'm going to just throw it out there because I grew up in Brampton. I love Jacuzzi Park is to I love to be part of the organizing team of a big music festival there. Because I just think about that park, like it has all the facilities there, all the necessities, great location, like the buses roll through it. It's right on Queen Street, great visibility. Like, why can't we just do a big music festival? They actually do Canada Day there every year, which kind of has a music festival vibe to it. But
So do it.
I should, yeah. But I need the grant funding, so.
You get the grants, I'll get you the artist.
Yeah, nice.
We've been talking about a lot of interesting things. We talked about grant funding, and then we talked about Coachella and music festivals in general, and Di still hasn't figured out who her third headliner would be.
I just did.
Who is it?
Janet Jackson.
Janet Jackson. Ooh. The
Got bare hits.
The FlyLadyDi Festival. Which,
Yeah.
where would be the location again? Scarborough Town
I was
Center?
thinking, Scarborough, King Kwan.
STC. Well, your face was posted at STC, right? For Nuit Blanche?
It was, yeah. Such an honor.
That's
Big ups
cool,
to Mark
right?
Stoddard, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a
Definitely.
cool exhibit. I remember seeing photos of it on your Instagram.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Let's move on. We're obviously in 2020, and everyone typically has like a New Year's resolution for 2020. I stumbled upon an article that said that most New Year's resolutions will fail in 6 weeks. I thought it was 3 weeks, but it's actually 6 weeks. Okay, so it's better than I thought. Maybe it's my New Year's resolutions that fail within 3 weeks. But wanted to get your thoughts. Like for me, I'm like, it's very easy to be like 2020, I'm going to hit the gym and I'm going to eat better and I'm going to lose 30 pounds. Like that's my New Year's resolution. But I think over the years, because of different goals that I've had, I've kind of treated New Year's resolutions into like actual life goals. Like, this year I want to take what I started last year and build on it. Or, I want to be a better husband. I want to be a good dad, like things like that, versus trying to be super specific. But we'll have to kind of go around the room and get a sense of, number one, do you have a New Year's resolution? If you do, what is it? If you don't, why don't you? And number two, the reason why you think they fail. And maybe Di, will begin with you.
I feel like I start the year with a vision. So this year, my vision is just to pile a lot more on the plate, because I feel like I've learned for myself that I operate better that way. If I give myself too much space of time, nothing gets accomplished. But when I'm working against a deadline or against other pursuits, usually, like everything I pursue is that much more intensified and like better. Because I was just, I was talking to you earlier about when I was in high school, I was doing so much. I was painting murals, I was, choreographing dances, etc. And I was still getting straight A's. So I feel like that high school Diana hasn't changed. Like I still love doing everything at once, and I feel like I operate better that way. So this year I'm just going to pile it all on the plate and run.
Straight high school die. Fly. Okay.
Fly high school die.
Fly high school die. There we go. So what's your vibe this year? What's your do you have a resolution?
Not really. I think I just resolved to get in the driver's seat more and be more in control of my projects, right? And just to be more creative with my output and my pursuit, and not limit myself. Because so many times I get, I let other people get in my head and tell myself, you need to focus on one thing, or just pare it down, or, calm down, or whatever. But it's like, no, like life is short, and if I feel an impulse to do something, I'm going to do it. Because why the beep not? right? Just do it, like Nike says. Not a plug, but literally, life is short, and just do as you feel. Like, why not?
I agree. There's some people that I've been giving that feedback in the past too, where some people are like, you know what, now focus on one thing, be the best that you can be at that one thing. But I'm on the same vibe. Like, life is short. If you have an inkling that something's gonna work, go do it. Even if you have an idea, maybe act on it. Because the one thing I learned a long time ago is I'm really bad at living with regret. So it's like, oh, I should have done that, or what if I did this? What if I did that? And now I'm like, no, I need to like jump on things. I need to know firsthand if it's going to work or if it's not going to work. Otherwise, it's just going to stick with me. And I'm just going to hate myself for not pursuing it. Lexxicon, what about you? Do you got a New Year's resolution?
I don't. I have New Year's goals.
Oh, do share if you want.
I'm dropping 2 albums 2020.
Wow.
That's because it's 2020.
Wow.
So
love it, man.
That I'm also, I swear I just had it in my head. Oh, right. Yeah, I want to start a podcast.
Oh, cool, man.
I'm going to do
what kind of
that
podcast?
too. It's going to be more just me meeting artists and other people in the Toronto music industry.
Nice, man.
And just
I like
talking
that.
about the scene of that. So I'm going to figure out how to do that. I mean, I'm just a fan of like, if I feel like I could do it or I think about it, at least try it, see what happens. I mean, even with the Afrowave thing, it was in my head for a while.
Yeah.
And then just kind of did it. And I was like, oh, it was way better than I thought it was going to be. And like, then everyone else was just like, oh, it did. And I was like, oh, I guess that did do that. I did do that. This really happened. It was really in my head. And like, now it's here. And like, now it's apparently growing into bigger things. And other people are like, oh, this can be whatever. And I'm like, oh, can it now? And I'm just like, okay. I'm still more like taken aback that it's even growing and anything's happening. But so like, that's another thing of just doing it if you think about it. And also I work better under pressure. Like I need to have like 10 things to do.
Yeah.
If I have nothing to do, I get nothing. Like I can't. It's so weird. The more time I have to like do things, I won't do anything. But if I have limited time, like in a week, I could get like 20 things done.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense, but like that's how my mind works.
I am right there with you. Exactly the same.
Do you guys actually find that you try to fill your time with something on a consistent basis?
That's a really good question. Not always. Not always.
Lexxicon just like, yeah, I do. Yeah.
I like to sometimes sit back and spend time with my folks and watch the Raptors games. But I feel like it's important to take that time also, because then the new idea will pour in, and it's like nice to give yourself a little bit of space sometimes mentally, and not for me like not to just like put so much pressure and to like fill the void with just things. I like to like make sure that it has substance and it has integrity and that I'm behind it. I'm not about just doing things to do them. It has to come from my heart.
And that's the issue with the new year is I find that a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves to be like, January 1st, I'm off to the races, or I need to do this, and this by February, or my year's done. And I kind of found that like that's how I used to perceive a lot of New Year's is like, I need to make sure that I set myself up for the next 12 months, like in the next 2 days. And I think one thing you need to just do is just, realize that that's not going to be the case, and just to kind of not put that much pressure on yourself. Like I remember this week, there was a list of things that I wanted to do, and quite frankly, I got through half of it, but then I took a step back and I'm like, okay, well, if I send this email 3 days from now, is it really going to make a difference in regards to the goal that I'm trying to hit? And I think that's where people usually get very hung up on, is just adding that pressure that when it's a new year, you must make moves, or you're not doing anything.
Well, I mean, I've been planning this year since like last year.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Like, I'm usually more
Head of
like,
the game.
yeah, you always like. I mean, I'm all about planning. So like, that's the only way I'm able to do all the million things I do, because I'm like, calendar is everything. My calendar. And I mean, I'll put those breaks too. Like, I'll put my Netflix breaks, and if I feel like there's too many things back to back. But that's also how I know if I'm free or not, because I know what's in the calendar, what's coming up, and how I keep myself.
That's good.
I have to, like, I need deadlines in order to do things.
Yeah.
I work better with deadlines than having too much time.
Yeah, you have to hold yourself accountable. Like, I think it's very easy to be like, I want to do this year, and then if you don't have a plan, or you're not writing stuff down, or you're not setting milestones or deadlines, it's just all talk, right?
It's very true. When I was in New York, I read a quote from Oscar Peterson that said, I don't need time, I need a deadline. And that's exactly what you just said. So it's so true. I need that pressure.
It's like Kendrick, you ain't got time to waste time. The judge makes time.
Yeah, I know it's due in like 2 days.
Super woke line, but I had to say it.
right.
So we won't go into deep on that. But yeah, no, like that's the genesis of this is just really seeing sort of people try to come up with their resolutions and try to see them through. Does it surprise you guys that, you know, it takes 6 weeks for someone to maybe set a resolution and break it? Like,
I'm more surprised maybe people are still doing resolutions.
Really, eh?
I agree with you.
Crazy.
Like, it's been a couple of years now. These clearly don't work.
Right.
Something else.
And like that article said, you know, January 1st is just a date on a calendar,
Yeah.
right? It's like, you know, this should be ongoing. It shouldn't just be the beginning of the year. It should be like March 1st too, you know? There's no real... And then, you know, time is kind of an illusion too, right? It's like...
It's a construct, right?
Exactly. It's really how you live your life. And I feel like you should definitely have a foresight of how you want to lay things out. But in terms of like New Year's resolutions, they don't work for a reason.
Yeah, for some reason I find that people are obsessed with starting things on the first of a month versus when they feel it's right. Like I know some people that realistically will eat like crap and be like, you know what? I'm going to have this burger on the 31st, and on the 1st, I'm eating only salad, and I eat salad from this point forward. And then, or, you know, they're like, oh, I really need to eat healthy, but it's the end of March. I'll start at the beginning of April. It's like they already write that portion off. Like, does that make sense to you guys?
It doesn't, but people do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Something about starting something on the first that just makes it feel right. I don't know. I do that sometimes too.
Yeah, I think it's a mental thing. But then I always attribute things to when I quit smoking cigarettes, which was May 13th, 2014.
You did what?
Yeah, I never touched a cigarette since. So it's been almost
Good
6
for
years.
You.
But it was kind of a random choice, and I was like, let me just put this last cigarette out, and I never touched it again. And it's really just a mental switch. It's not like a decision you have to make on this day, the 31st, right? Because we put that pressure on ourselves to like have a deadline or whatnot, and then you binge before that, and then you become addicted from that binge.
Yeah.
And you're like, ugh. But yeah, I just feel like make that decision and stick to it, and that's all you got to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I more just go based off how I feel.
Yeah.
If I feel like it's right now, I would do it right now, because I usually do things because I'm moody. I'm an artist. So when it comes to everything, I have to do it while I feel it, because I don't know how long I'm going to feel this for. I don't know when it's going to come back. So as soon as I'm like, I feel like this is the right time to do this, all right, sit down, plan this, bam, done.
Awesome.
You must be a Capricorn.
No, I'm Pisces.
Oh.
I'm a Pisces too, but I definitely relate, man. Like sometimes it's just easier to just go on the next day and be like, you know what, I'm kind of over it, like kind of ready to kind of start something new and not even worry about it. What do you, based on the goals that you guys have set, how far in advance did you set these goals, and do you have time, like do you have a deadline associated as to when you're going to hit them? I know you talked about deadlines earlier, Lex, but how far in advance the goals for this year did you set in 2019?
So I usually start planning at least like 6 to 4 months.
Wow, dude, there's more people that need to be like you, man.
I mean, it's only because like within music, like you can't just do things. I mean, you can, but then it doesn't work. Like you can't just do something. Like you have to have a work back. What is it? A
work back schedule?
Yeah, you have to have a work back. Like if you want the project to cut, like for this one, like my album's coming out January 31st. Say I want that out, I can't write that in January. I can't like have it mixed and recorded in January. Yeah. I can't have the cover art done. I can't have the photo shoot done. I can't have a video if I'm gonna have one done in January. You have to do it before. Like the whole like rollout and whole like planning and like you're in music, you kind of have to if you want to be successful. You have to plan out everything, especially if we look at some of the major contemporaries and how they do everything. Like especially when Beyonce dropped that album, you think like she just dropped it? No, she's been planning for months, and she's been doing secret video shoots for months, and she did one, and then she did bam. Then it's like because of planning and execution, like planning is everything. So like that's why I plan so far in ahead. Like if I want these projects done, I have to know kind of when I want to start, how much time do I have, when I kind of want to have it released, when I kind of need to have the assets ready to promote it afterwards. Like you have to think about it, or it's not going to happen. Yeah.
No, I like that, because there aren't a lot of creatives that think like that. There's a lot of creatives that will just, I'll put it out, see what happens. Kind of wait and see.
Tried that, didn't work.
No, but like I think you almost have to take, and I'm glad that you bring up Beyonce, because she is very strategic with her launches. Like there's a reason why she can put out an album on a day's notice, because again, she's already built up like a lot of the work beforehand. Like, was it like Lemonade? She came out with that with the movie pretty much, or the movie video, whatever you want to call it. I think for the album before, which I think was just called Beyonce, she had videos for all the songs already in the bag.
First visual album that we know.
Yeah, seriously.
Everyone's copied it ever since.
Admittedly, they have, and I think that type of planning is so necessary, especially if you're really passionate about what you're doing. Like, I think you need to spend the time, especially if it takes a few months, let it, right? Like, I think if you know that, hey, by January, I'm going to put this project out, and, I think based on my work back, I'm going to need 6 months to get to that date. Like, I think you need to put that work in, man. I think people get too hung up on, I need to put everything out now, and, like, hopefully it sticks and hopefully people listen to it. But again, people's time is also limited too.
Right. And you also have to, bear in mind like waves of things, like, when people are in and out of school and holidays, and when people are in and out of town also, it's like you have to be mindful of like these little like waves of when people would be engaged in whatever you're putting out.
Yeah, even like planning events now, I have to be like, oh, right. Like, think about the timing, whether people are at work or whether they're coming from this, or like if it's on a weekend, like what day on the weekend, because like certain days are more competitive than others because they're going out to do all the other things, and you have to like be really strategic. And I'm like,
strategy is very important.
Because that's the one thing that I always think about is people always have something else that they could be doing rather than watching your stand-up video or listening to my show or going to your show. Like, there's always an alternate thing that they could be doing. It's like, what reason are you giving them to check you out, to support you, to really allow themselves to embrace your art and really immerse themselves in it? Like, I think that's what people need to start thinking about. And that's part of the things for me. Like, I didn't set a New Year's resolution. Like, I think part of my resolutions this year was, number one, for personal development, just to kind of be good, continue to be good to my family, and like obviously like be there for my daughter, because I have no idea how to be a dad, so I'm figuring out as we go. But then also there's obviously goals that I have for the station and for the show, and again, I think it's so necessary, instead of setting them up as resolutions, to kind of think of them as just evolving goals that you're just going to continue to keep top of mind. Do you guys believe in like vision boards and all that? Like, what do you do in your planning process to get you right on track?
Definitely. I have books, so I have like volumes of sketchbooks and notebooks that I fill with ideas. And whenever I'm writing a grant, that's what the first thing I turn to is my book. I write down all my ideas.
Sick.
I write down who I want to involve. I write down when, where, all of the things that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And then, I definitely turn to the internet for images, and then, paste those images together. And usually it really helps with the execution, because then it gives you like a guideline to work with, and like kind of like because there's so much out there now, right? There's like literally millions, billions of images and ideas, but if you have your own, narrowed down to a certain like aesthetic, then you can stick to it, and then it'll kind of direct all of your energy towards that easily.
Yeah. I actually stopped buying notebooks with lines. Like, I started buying notebooks with blank paper, because I just found myself doodling or just writing random stuff. Like, I always like whiteboarding ideas, so having like a book with blank pages allows me to kind of whiteboard consistently, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
But I found that it allowed me to think about my projects a lot clearer and be able to articulate what I want to do. Lexxicon, you mentioned your planner. Like, how deep is this planner? And is this a handheld planner, or is this a planner that lives in your phone?
It lives in my phone.
Oh, yeah. So if you lose your phone, it's over, pretty much.
No, it lives in my notes section, and it lives in my Gmail, my Gmail drafts.
Yo, I do the Gmail drafts too. You have to, man.
Because then I can access from my phone or my laptop or anywhere. If I want to change things or add things, I can always just solo whenever, because I have ideas random times. So like, since I'm like, ooh, and I'll write down everything I'm thinking, like, ooh, who could do this? And I'm like, ooh, and then there's this, and I'm like, like the fact that I've just gotten it out, and then I'll come back to later when I'm actually ready to like let things out. But yeah, I just keep everything on my phone, because that's what I'm on, and like I know if I write, like even when school, like I'm not one to take notes. Yeah. I'm not going back to read it.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Like, I can write these down, but I'm not reading it again. I'm not going back.
It's so crazy how people use the drafts to come with ideas. Like, I remember one time on my drafts, I had a shell of a show I was putting together. I think I had like ideas for this show in there. I think I had just like my grocery list in there. Like, I don't know what it was, but like I remember I was just like on my computer, and I'm like, oh, I need to write something down. I didn't want to like I didn't want to open up a Word document, so I just started writing on my Gmail, and it's crazy when you go back, like, wow, I really wrote a lot of stuff in this draft section that I'm not mailing to anybody, but I guess it's easy to articulate, I guess. I don't know.
And you can always copy and paste them whenever you want to anything else after.
Yeah, actually, I have some social media Instagram captions in there too.
Nice, yeah.
Just if I want to make sure it sounds right.
I kind of like that too, like the night before.
I'm banking them.
Yeah, the night before I'll like write it out and then set an alarm and then post it, because then you don't have to like wake up and be like, what do I want to say?
Oh, that's what I do.
Yeah. It's
No,
better to do
straight
it
up.
at night.
Yeah, especially when you have that one deep Instagram caption and you're like, you know what? I think I want to sleep on this one. And then the next morning, you're like, oh, what's the right photo? What's the right deep photo for
I'm
this?
like giving up on captions.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I already just organized the feed. I'm like, I already organized the feed. I'm like, okay, I have the captions. Whatever I feel like that day in that minute, that's what I'm gonna write.
Well, but to close the segment off, what's one, if you don't mind sharing, what's one personal goal that you have for yourself this year? And Lexxicon begin with you. It doesn't have to be music or anything related, just like in general. Like, what's something that you're looking at for yourself?
Oh no, I'm trying to go back to the gym.
Oh yeah,
but like for real.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, I used to go. I was way more committed. I go 4 times a week.
Wow, really?
Like, wake up early in the morning.
Yeah.
I go to work, then do all that other stuff. So like, going back into that again because like I want to do more festivals this year, so I need to be in shape too.
He wants to be shirts off, just like rocking the mesh tees. He's killing it. He's ready. Die over you.
More output.
Yeah.
Just put more stuff out that I envision and I'm like in the steering wheel for. But yeah, just putting more out there because I tend to be really lazy.
Yeah.
And not put out videos or pictures or anything like that. So definitely making a plan and putting out more of stuff. FlyLadiDi brand.
All right. Yeah. FlyLadiDi, the brand. For trademark that.
Yeah, I know, right?
For myself, I'm going to say it's a 2-parter. I want to be just generally healthy, like feel good, feel more energetic. So whether it means signing up to a new gym because my old gym closed down, or eating better, definitely want to have those energy levels up. And I would say the second one is, again, just growing everything that I've started, because I think it's very easy to remain stagnant, to be an autopilot, to assume that, okay, this is working in my schedule. If I just keep the lights on, it's fine. Like, I think there needs to be a continued push. I think that's the only way you'll see progression. So that's what I'm thinking about. Let's actually talk about some of the stuff you're putting out, Lexxicon, because for this last segment, we typically like to tap into our community and tap into some of the artists that are here locally and really give them a platform. And you obviously got a lot of exciting stuff on the way. You're dropping 2 albums this year, which is insane, but I think amazing at the same time. I think it's fantastic that you're putting out so much content. The first one actually comes out later this month. It is Bashment Trap House. Tell us about that, man. Tell us about Bashment Trap House. Actually, tell us about like your style in general, because when I listen to your music, what I love about it is you definitely got the reggae influence, but I feel like for all the hip hop heads too, they can definitely get into it as well.
Yeah, I'd say my style in general is more like a fusion because I listen to different kinds of stuff, and also like knowing how like dancehall is like. Most people don't even know what they're saying. So like, it wouldn't make sense to do a whole bunch of that 100% in all the songs because no one would know what I was saying.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of like, oh, yeah, ooh. But like, they don't really get it. So like, yeah, I mean, so I kind of put like a mix in there. So like, you kind of understand, kind of like have to find the balance of when I want to be more Jamaican or when I want to be more Canadian or when I want to be like more, whatever I'm feeling for that song is really how I do it. So yeah, I like to make like a fusion. Last year I did my first album, which was Bashment Reggaeton, which is like a fusion of dancehall reggaeton. Had like some other reggaeton artists here in Toronto as well feature on there. Before that, I did a soca EP.
Ooh.
Because I just felt like I've never done that, so why not? And then I was like, just to prove to myself I could do it.
Yeah.
So did like a little soca EP, and now I'm planning for this upcoming project, which is a fusion of like dancehall and hip hop. Because, I mean, I've been listening to more hip-hop, and I just like fusing dancehall with everything, so.
That's good. But you know what? That's so representative of our community, because we have such a strong Caribbean influence, across the GTA.
Absolutely.
That I think the fact that you're taking that influence and you're mixing it in with a bit of a modern sort of on-trend sound, I think is fantastic, because you're not really losing the art that exists within dancehall music.
No, yeah, and I mean, I also just like how the new stuff sounds.
Yeah,
I like putting different sounds together. So I'm like, ooh, this is cool. I'm gonna do my take on it. Like, oh, this is my take on that. So yeah, I hope y'all will be excited. I mean, the couple singles have been out. The new one, Lucky Lucky, comes out next week, January 10th.
We'll play a bit of that a little later on the show so people can hear it. And honestly, I was listening to it earlier. I think it's a banger, man.
Oh, really?
It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I dig it. And that's a new Theory Radio exclusive. I should have like an exclusive, like a little tag in there. So I'm gonna get that one made. What's Afrowave for those people that aren't familiar with that?
Afrowave is a showcase platform that I recently started in September of 2019.
Okay.
Yes. So I mean, I had an idea in my head because I mean, I perform at a couple showcases, lots of stages, and like a lot of the time, I'm like this is like the first time they've heard a dancehall artist in Toronto, and I'm like, it's really not that. Like, there's others, you know, there's a couple others. I mean, I just go out more, but like there's others who are just as talented, not better. And like, so I'm like, I would want to create that. And I see a lot of like hip hop shows, a lot of R&B shows, a lot. So I'm like, why not create one for, you know, Afrobeats and dancehall? So I just made one for Afrobeats, dancehall, reggaeton, soca, just kind of all the vibey sounds.
Nice.
Because I mean, also one, it'll bring the artists together, so hopefully they can do more collaborations later. Also, a lot of them have never met, so like it's also great for them to like meet each other, see that there are also other people doing it, kind of like slowly build that community here in the Toronto like arts scene. So we've been doing that. We've been trying to do monthly showcases to have different lineup every time. Have artists come, they perform, intermission. We usually have a couple games. For the first one, we did kind of a In the River Upon the Bank. I don't know if y'all know what that is.
No,
but like
explain. Explain, man.
It's a game where it's kind of, there's like a line and like you have to jump back and forth. Like you're either in the river or on the bank. But like you kind of, like, when you're hosting, you're going to In the River Upon the Bank. And like they have to like be on the right side when you say to jump. Yeah, so like that was exciting.
I love that, man.
For the second one in November, we did Limbo.
Okay.
To give out like a prize for the best person. Like,
Limbo always gets super competitive. You always have that one person that's like limboing where they're like literally their backs touching the ground because they're going that low. Yeah, it's crazy.
It was.
And they stand up like nothing happened.
No, it was wild. It was like, whew. I try to like find some interactive aspect at least during the night just to get one, to make it a little more different than the other ones, and like to get people like doing some stuff, because I'm not in for the stand up on the wall and pose and look up on things. No, y'all need to come and dance. We're actually moving. We're actually getting into it. I want to hear some screaming. I want to hear some whatever. Like none of this light stand up and observe foolishness. So I make it a point to do different things to break that, to make sure that doesn't happen.
That. But that's so necessary because dancehall music is fun, man.
Oh
like,
yeah, for real.
I think about like Get Busy Sean Paul is such a legendary video, and I think we've all been to basement parties like that. Like probably not the same type of choreographed dancing, but growing up in Brampton, like people would throw basement jams and they would be heavy into dancehall. We'd play some hip hop hits, and like sometimes their parents would be upstairs cooking up a meal for everybody. Like it was cool. Like that was part of the vibe when you lived in the GTA or in areas like Brampton, Mississauga, obviously Rexdale, Scarborough, Markham too. Can't forget Markham. Sorry, Di. But that just seemed like the wave, and I find that now the wave's kind of different. Like it's very sort of gloomy, and I don't know. People like to.
Yeah, I mean, they always say, like, you know, Toronto hip-hop, that's, like, because of the cold weather.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we also have summer, y'all. Like, let's have some representation of the different seasons that come from the city.
What's the, what's with the word bashment? Like, what does that mean to you?
It means, well, it basically means dancehall. So it's really just, it's more like a professional way of saying dancehall, but, like, it's just, it's really, like it's the same dancehall, and, like, it's just because I felt like I wanted to.
One of our episodes last year, I think I told you this before we went on the air, we had a great artist on, K Music. She's someone that's been in the scene for quite some time. She was performing. We had her on because she was performing at the This Is Brampton North by Northeast Showcase. And we actually got into a deep conversation regarding the reggae dancehall scene here in the GTA and how it's not getting its due. We have an amazing artist, Exco Levy, which is based in Brampton, does amazing things. Shout out to my homie Jesse Jones. I know he works with Exco on a bunch of different projects. But why do you think that dancehall isn't being as not respected, but isn't held in the same vein as sort of the Toronto hip hop scene? Is it because it's a lack of artists? Is it because people might find the music maybe a little polarizing? Like what is it? Like why isn't dancehall getting its fair share?
I would say it's not any of the things that you mentioned.
Yeah.
I would say it's more like having the space to do it.
Okay.
I mean, as we can see, like a lot of even like hip hop concerts have had issues with space and like being able to like. So like, imagine if they're having problems. Of course, it'll be a little more, especially when they come. They're like, "What is this?" They don't know what's happening. It's to have the place to actually do it and to exist isn't the biggest. Is the biggest like hurdle, is what I would say. Like even me myself trying to find venues at first. First, it's like one, I have to try and find venues that have maybe done like something that maybe they've done a reggae night, maybe they've done a Latin night or something. So I know that like when I come to them, they're not gonna look at me two-faced or be like, "What is this?" And then it's like, okay, narrowing that down and then trying to find that space where like they understand the culture and we're gonna walk up, we're gonna dance up, and like it's gonna be fine. Like, because I mean, they also try to associate a lot of urban music to violence for some reason, which is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. So it's just trying to get past those things, and then because once you have a space, people can come there, people can build community, and then they can enjoy the culture. They're already going to listen to a Spotify anyway. Why not see it live?
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up, because my experience, I used to run a couple of South Asian parties like back in my university days. And that was the same type of concern. Like, we used to go to venues when I used to go out to school in Hamilton, where they would say, "Oh, you're throwing a South Asian party? Okay, we don't want that. You guys are just going to fight." And I remember at the time, being my early 20s, being like, "Oh, that sucks." Now, like in hindsight, I'm like, "Man, that's kind of racist." Like, it is racist. Yeah. Like, there's just so much. And like, again, I think I've seen a lot of posts online about venues in Toronto saying no to hip hop shows, saying no to dance hall shows, saying no to even some hard rock shows, because they're like, "Oh, we don't know what kind of crowd's going to come out. We don't know what kind of mischief is going to happen." What's one way of combating some of that ignorance in your eyes?
I mean, it's really just finding those who don't see it that way, because they're not all going to be like that, even though there's a strong majority. They just got to I found the ones that like are like understanding or like are open to at least try different things, and just work with the people that want to work with you. Like, I'm not here to like try and convince anybody that already has made up their mind.
You got 2 shows coming up at the Baby G. Is that one of the venues that you hold close to your heart?
Yes, they've been like so great, like in terms of just communication and like just it was like, "Oh, can I do this?" I'm like, because I'm not, I like to be organized. So I'm like looking at dates. I'm like, I need to. They'll send it. I'll respond. I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "This lineup, this is whatever." They're like, "Okay." They don't really try to like interfere too much, and it's just been. I'm like, "Oh, it doesn't even feel real to be honest." I'm like, "This is too good." So it's been like really, really good. So big up the Baby G.
I love it, man.
Yeah, they've been great.
How have you been finding? Because obviously doing the shows at a venue like Baby G, like Toronto is a pretty saturated market. How have you sort of been finding the marketing aspect when it comes to your Afrowave events?
I've been really doing it very grassroots.
What a buzz term for 2020 already. Grassroots.
I've been like really just contacting people in my network that I've met, and like messaging people directly on like my Instagram that like I know would like this kind of music. All the people that basically everyone that likes all of my stuff is gonna like the show. So I just message all those people. They'll talk to people that they know like those kind of stuff, and like just that's all I've done.
You know what? I kind of love that type of approach, because then if you have a good product and you expose it first to your close network, and then you tell them, "Hey, maybe extend this out to someone you know," and it slowly builds up. I think that's how you get a good following, and that's how people start to realize, "Man, this Afrowave stuff is pretty cool." So
I think that's what's happening.
It's a smart way. Di, you did a show last year called Third World, which was solely produced by you. It involved dancing, comedy, everything. Tell us a bit more about Third World and where you were able to take it, because you were able to go back home with this too.
Yeah, well, it's funny, like the concept of home, like it's such a big part of my show, and I like to think of Toronto as home because that's where I was born and it's where I was raised. But when people look at me, they don't automatically think Canadian, and so I have to, like, the whole purpose of my show is to prove that, like someone who looks like me is a Canadian. And I grew up shoveling snow and like watching kids in the hall and, eating bacon and maple syrup, just like you.
So Canadian.
So listening to Life is a Highway in the background while like playing hockey with the tennis ball.
Oh, God.
So yeah, that's like my whole thing is like to change the perception of people, change the perception of what a Canadian looks like, right? Because that I'm Canadian and I don't look like your quote unquote typical Canadian holding a double and going to hockey. like there's so many people like us, right, who are born right here in the GTA, who don't feel like Canadian because we're not treated that way.
Yeah.
You know, and just because we are of color and we don't look like, you know, your typical Canadian wearing like a lumberjack, you know, sitting in the garage watching the Leafs.
Even though your scarf's plaid.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, like, I mean, like the whole aim for me right now is to change the perception and to like warm people up to the idea of being a Canadian, because I'm so proud to be a Canadian and I'm so proud to be, you know, from here and to represent all over the world. And I just want people to like really get their mind around the fact that like, you know, someone like me is actually, you know, a Canadian. And when I go to Philippines, I'm so disoriented because that's not my culture, right?
Yeah.
Like karaoke, I like sing that once a year, whereas that's their life. That's like their daily life. And like there's so many things culturally that I have to like adopt, you know, as a Canadian going to the Philippines, because I didn't start going there till I was 32, right? And I'm still learning so much more about my culture because a lot of it was erased by colonization. Like a lot of us, you know, like people of third world descent. And it's so important for us to like know ourselves through that. But it's also important for other people who don't have that experience to know what we're going through and to know that experience and to know like how disorienting it can be. Because when I got to the airport in Manila, there's a line for Filipinos and a line for non-Filipinos. And as someone of Filipino descent, it's like, what do I choose? I am Filipino, but I have a Canadian passport. Yeah. And it's like, what am I? Like, I don't know. And so
I noticed that in India, too. When I went to India, they had two different lines, non-Indian and Indian, and I was like, well, I'm born in Canada. I like to think that I'm a non-Indian, even though I'm Indian. Like, it's just weird, right? But no, I totally get what you're saying. Like, it's so hard, especially like here in Toronto specifically, in the GTA, Mississauga, Brampton, Saga 960. We are a Peel Region station. But in this sort of area, you're just exposed to so much. Like, you're exposed to different cultures, you're exposed to multiculturalism, you're exposed to different types of cuisine. Like, when I went to India a few years ago for the first time, I went when I was 29, it was a culture shock for me, because I'm like, you know, I've never been before. My parents never took me, and not because they couldn't, but the time wasn't there. And it's just interesting to see how things are different and how people's perception of you too, when you're not pseudo Indian, where you're like, oh, this guy's too Canadian, like he can't speak Punjabi for his life. And again, for me, it was like, look, like I can't help where I was raised, but that doesn't mean I don't have an appreciation for my roots, right?
Right. And the funny thing is, in Filipino culture, and my mom, if she's listening to this, she'll get really mad. But
shouts to Di's mom, my number one fan.
Yeah, no, she's the best. Tita Minda, love you. But no, like a lot of Filipinos are still brainwashed, and there's this mentality of like loving their colonizers still, like the Spaniards, you know, who took over for hundreds and hundreds of years. They're still under that mentality, and they're not even interested in learning about the indigenous aspect, which I'm so interested in because it's so interesting, and I feel like somehow so connected to it because it's so beautiful and connected to nature and colorful and vibrant and unique to the Philippines, right? It's like there's so much that we can gain from that, especially like for me, someone who's an artist. That, you know, we have to do our own investigation because it's not readily available to us even when we go there. Yeah. So it's really interesting. So, yeah, my whole mission right now is to just dig and to represent on stage and to have people come out and represent in the audience because that's mad important, too. It's like, it's not just being on stage, but it's to reflect back your experience and everyone else's experience. So like we have this connection, you know, and so it's important for people to come out and represent in the audience because so often than not, that audience is not what reflects our life.
Yeah, and I love that about both your initiatives is it's very much tied to specific communities and showing pride and showing support and being reflective of what's around you and just how people are versus some of the things that I see that are quintessentially just hitting a multicultural quota. It's like, okay, we're going to see this dance from this country, and obviously there's nothing wrong with that. But how much of that actually relates to people in this area? Like, not a lot, especially as you get to the second and third generations. Like, I'm second generation. My daughter's officially third generation Canadian. Like, what's going to be her preference of South Asian culture when she's my age? I don't know, right? But to get her exposed, but to also get her exposed to what life is like in Canada is something that's important to me. So no, I'm glad both of you guys are doing that. All right. Some good island vibes in the studio right now. I love it. That is Lexxicon, Lucky. You are tuned into the New Theory Radio on News Talk Saga 960 AM. That's a big track, Lex, man. That's dope.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's gonna be the summertime anthem, man. I feel it.
Hearing it on the radio is crazy.
AM radio. I'm sure FM radio is gonna kill it too, man. But you were listening to New Theory Radio. My name is Nav Nanwa. I am your host. Happy New Year. Happy 2020. And special thanks to my guest that joined me in studio, Lexxicon, who we just heard. Lucky's out this Friday, right?
That's correct.
This Friday on iTunes, Spotify, everything. Amazing. And then Bashment. Album again. Yes, Bashment Trap House
is out January 31st.
January 31st. Yes, amazing. So go check that out. And you got 2 shows coming up, Baby G.
Yep, Baby G, January 26th and February 23rd.
And then will you bring Afrowave to Brampton, Mississauga? Is that the plan? I think Brampton would be heavy, man.
I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm just figuring it out, to be honest. So I don't know.
Hey, being that you plan 6 months in advance, I'm sure you can figure something out for June, July, right?
We'll see if you want to help me.
And then Di, actually, before you die, we get to you. What's the best way people can connect with you on social?
Oh, right. They can go to my website, lexxiconofficial.com. That's LEXXICON.
All right.
Official.com. And, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, all of those things. But if you go to the website, you can find a nice direct link.
Okay. All right. And FlyLadiDi, my other guest for the last 2 hours. Thanks so much for joining us. What is the best? Actually, what do you got to promote? What do you got coming up?
Thanks for having me. Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, there's going to be a lot of Guan this year. So just keep in touch with me on my Instagram and you'll see it all. FlyLadyDi. And that's on Instagram and my website as well.
All right. And if you want to connect with New Theory Radio, it's at New Theory Radio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you want to connect with me, it's at Nanwa on Twitter, at Nav Nanwa on Instagram. I should probably do a better job with my handles. Go connect with our photographer at Colorblind Photography _ Special thanks to our producer, Jyoti Pandu, for holding down the board. Special thanks to Ola here in studio, helping us out, bringing Lex to the studio. Thanks so much. And special thanks to our producer of our theme song, at Dusty Lube. Shout out to Dusty. I know he's feeling a bit under the weather, so hope you're feeling better, brother. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of New Theory Radio, and you will hear all of us next time. Peace.
Stream us live at saga960am.ca.